You're with Dean Beck, Joy 94.9.
Across Melbourne on Joy 94.9 and streaming live around the world at joy.org.au. You are on the line with Dean Beck, and I'm very pleased to welcome the program coordinator of an amazing organisation called Opening Doors. Alex Mills, welcome to Joy 94.9.
Thank you so much for having us, Dean.
We're also joined in the studio by Lyn McDonald and on the line by Sally Goldner, who you all know well. Lyn and Sally, welcome to you both.
Hey, Dean.
Hello, Dean. Thanks for inviting us here. It's wonderful.
Now, Lyn, you're a graduate, along with Sally, of Opening Doors.
That's right.
This is a tremendous mentoring program to empower leaders. Tell us about your experience with Opening Doors.
A friend who also worked as a volunteer at Dog Care had done the program the year before, and I noticed how she shone and how much she enjoyed the program, and she set up a small correspondence course for elderly people and migrants, and she recommended Opening Doors. I didn't see that I had any leadership skills at all, but she said, look, just go ahead and do it. And I knew that I wanted to one day. The goal was to set up a peer support group for TransFamily.
That being the families of trans people?
Exactly.
Yep.
Families, friends, allies,
Yep.
any loved ones of a trans person. My daughter came out back in 1997.
Right.
And at the time I was seeking some support from others who knew what I was talking about. And even at that time, most of the psychologists, even the psychiatrists, really didn't have much of an idea what I was on about. They just didn't get it.
Yeah.
And so I began the program with Sally Goldner, the wonderful Sally Goldner.
And we'll get to Sally in just a moment. But Alex, you're a graduate of the program yourself, but now you're coordinator of it. Tell me a little bit about the framework in which Open Doors operates.
So the program was really born in the mid-2000s out of a recognition that social isolation is a massive issue for people from all backgrounds, gender identifications, cultures, religions. But at that point in time, there wasn't a great deal known about what the long-term health effects of social isolation are. So a little bit of research was done, and what we found is that if you're isolated in your community, or if you don't have any meaningful connections to your community, the harm to your health is about akin to smoking a packet of cigarettes a day.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty profound. So I think from a health organisation point of view, people started to go, well, we need to do something about this. And looking around the world, the best work that was being done in communities wasn't by organisations going in and pointing out what all the problems in the communities were.
Let's fix you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Here's your problems, we'll fix you. It was about empowering communities to identify their strengths, their talents, what they really shine at.
And to evolve in that space.
Absolutely.
Your impetus for originally doing it, why did you choose Opening Doors? What was your motivation for doing it?
It's a really interesting question. I was actually managing a record store in Melbourne southeast, and developed a pretty profound anxiety disorder and had to stop work for a couple of years. And through that process started volunteering at my local neighbourhood house and started to get interested in community, and I suppose people who maybe had been through something similar to me.
How did volunteering help you with your anxiety issues?
It was really a way to get back out there.
Okay. To force you into an open space and to deal with people type of thing.
Pretty much.
Right.
I mean,
okay.
as anyone who's been through anxiety will know, you can get to a point where there's issues like agoraphobia, social engagement.
Yeah, you tend to shut down.
You do.
Yeah.
So volunteering was great, but this program was even greater, and it really gave me not only the opportunity to engage with like-minded people, but to overcome my challenges. And you get to that point where you're like, I'm actually really glad I went through that anxiety, otherwise I'd still be selling Nickelback albums.
Sally Goldner, you have been a leader amongst the LGBTI community for many, many years. Why would you do a course like Opening Doors?
I was attracted to the idea originally, to be honest, of that I live in the eastern suburbs and didn't really know a lot and thought it would be good to learn about engaging more at a local level. It sort of came out that way, that, it has happened that way because we got to meet a lot of people and it did enhance my skills. Whatever I'd done before, there's always was something new to learn, and it did create a confidence boost about branching out further. So there were lots of benefits, we'll say, unintended as well as what the original goals were. It was great.
Would I be right in saying your evolution as a leader was an organic one? You found yourself in a space where you could drive things, but the back end of that, if you like, the framework, the education, the how-to and the why, had never been something that you'd focused on because you were too busy driving forward.
That's pretty much it. Yeah, I just sort of dived in and hopefully kept swimming, and then sort of along the way have learnt how to refine the freestyle or whatever it was I was doing. Yeah, that's a fair analogy.
And I would imagine, Sally, with all due respect, in some cases that means pulling back and allowing a space for listening.
Definitely, totally, and finding out more, finding out what I could learn in myself so I might be able to do things more effectively, and trying to be more effective for other people, definitely.
I totally get it. Alex, it's a bit of a two-sided coin, this leadership thing. The program is perfect for people like Lyn, who've never been in a space of leadership but want to do something, and for people like Sally who perhaps are leaders but it's just evolved that way, and to actually do the groundwork and the homework, if you like, they can learn from it too.
It's one of the real strengths of the program. Pretty much each year we've had people like myself, when I did the program, who are pretty green, haven't really had a lot of experience in the community, and then we get people like Sally who've been, leading pretty much since the day they were born, and what we found is that both of those ends of the spectrum get something out of the program, but there's also that great connection that forms, between people like Lyn and Sally who hadn't even met before the program started.
This is where I'm headed now. Lyn, tell me how you, with your family background, meeting Sally at an organisation like Opening Doors, where you're both there really to do something for community. How did that marriage, for want of a better word, take place, and how has it evolved since?
On the very first day at the retreat, there's a 3-day retreat at the beginning of the program, I spied Sally and thought, I think I know her.
Right. From her work?
From her work,
yeah.
And also because I think my daughter had met her. I'd never met her before. I just knew of her amazing background among the trans community and the work that she does for trans and human rights as an activist.
Yeah.
And I just sidled over to her and I said, are you Sally Goldner? And she said yes, and I introduced myself and I said, I think we have something in common. I said, you may know my daughter. Right. And she said she did, and then off we went. And we both, from that moment on, just clicked and felt that there was something we could do together. I don't know whether I'd introduced what my plan was. What I had in mind anyway was to begin a support group, a peer support group. And so Sally and I went from there. And I began to realise that maybe I did have a few leadership skills and I could develop them and learn about myself, and I've gained in
If nothing else, you had an amazing idea that no one else had done. Mm.
Well, perhaps it had been tried at some stage, but there didn't seem to be anything around even then.
Sally, tell us what meeting Lyn meant for you.
Oh, look, it was amazing. Despite everything that I've done, I sometimes... we still have nervous moments, and I was having on the first morning out at this retreat a bit of a am I the only queer in the village? And, well, Lyn wasn't quite, but close enough, and there was just this sense of connection that, and I really, as I said, I didn't perhaps have a hugely clear idea of why I was in the course, and once that happened, of course, the fog began to clear. And I do have to give credit, I do have to say, to Alex Mills, whose initials AM stand for altruistic mischief, because I think he pushed us both into the course together to make sure that this happened.
Oh, never admit to any of that, Sally. You're on your own there.
Off the record. But,
of course.
Look, it was a real great relief to just meet someone there and of course, after that, whilst regardless of whatever anyone else identified as, it was a great group, I would hasten to add as well, and really didn't matter who people were, which was awesome. And the program sort of both the program itself and our resulting goal of getting TransFamily up and running just seemed to motor along.
Lyn had a clear objective of why she went into this. Sally, what was your objective going into this?
Well, as I say, to be honest, I was a bit... there was an intuition of saying, trust, just do this course, something good will come out of it. I didn't really have a clear objective, and then it began to crystallise as from that moment on that first day of the retreat. And look, lots of other good things have happened indirectly out of it, as well as this group. We got to meet lots of local government-type people, including the then mayor of the city of Manningham, where I live, who introduced me to staff, and now we're able to work with government and mental health type services out here to raise awareness of trans and LGBTI issues. So there's been the sort of...
Surely not in the eastern suburbs, Sally.
That's right, yeah. Look, this is...
Even there?
Yeah,
Wow.
So this is... that's right. So where I live is about 15 k's as the crow flies east of Melbourne, roughly down the Eastern Freeway. And it's been interesting, actually, in the context of the week we've just had with Ida Hobbit Week. There were mountains of events out in the west, which, of course, is awesome, but there wasn't a lot in the east. So maybe now this can be something else that comes out of it. There may be an idea for someone who wants to do the program this year, to start to work in that area and raise the visibility and all that sort of thing. So, yeah, it wasn't a clear objective, but it's sort of, follow your heart and you'll end up in the right place. And I did on many levels in terms of connections out where I live, and obviously with Lyn, to use the Twitter hashtag #AdoptedMum, which is fantastic.
We're speaking with Sally Goldner, Lyn McDonald, both graduates of Opening Doors, and the program coordinator, Alex Mills. Alex, I can imagine that from Opening Doors, many people network, meet, and often what comes out of Opening Doors isn't the exact idea as to what they wanted when they went into it.
That's exactly right. And I think one of the things that I love about this program is, for people like Sally and Lyn to come in and be able to share their experiences. Last year we had a group of gentlemen from the Sikh community. We had people who were retirees. We had young people with a mental health background. And just to be able to expose, I think, such a broad group of people to others' experiences and just the spirit of care and celebration that comes with the group.
Let's talk about a few basic logistics. How much does it cost?
It's absolutely free.
Right.
We think that's really important because it makes it accessible to everybody, and I suppose you could say the motto is we invest in you and then you go on and invest in your community. How
does the individual get chosen to be a part of Opening Doors?
So there's an application form and then an interview process, but it's not a big, scary, 3 judges sitting up on a high panel interview. It's really informal, and it's basically about meeting some of the other people that you'll hopefully do the program with.
How many times a year is it run?
Just one.
Right. And do you have a set number of graduates each year, or an intake each year? How does that work?
Yeah, we look to recruit around 18 to 20 community leaders each year, and it's really worth stressing we don't ever knock anybody back because they're not, quote, good enough or whatever the language might be. It's more about making sure we get a really good cross-section of the community and leaders from different backgrounds.
Is there any negativity from some of the participants? Putting Sally and Lyn in a space next to some people could be very challenging for some.
I'll tell you what, I'm not going to lie, that was a concern of mine.
Yep.
But as always, fears were completely allayed.
Wow.
In the interview process,
special.
at the opening retreat. I think it's just what happens when you bring a group of people together who are united by a common passion, really.
Lyn, tell us about your experience of meeting these people from all different parts of various communities.
Certainly.
And being thrown together over a course of one weekend and then a few weeks following. Is that how it works?
It's about 6 months in total.
Right. Wow. It's a commitment.
It is a bit of a commitment, but it's well worth it.
Sure.
Certainly I had a slight fear that perhaps this might be way out of some people's comfort zone, but it wasn't. People were just curious, they were interested, they were amazed, they were just so accepting.
Lyn, can I
really
ask you, why your personal experience with being thrust into our community took place nearly 20 years ago. why do you want to be doing something now?
In the beginning, when I sought a similar group for myself and none existed, when I thought about joining the group, I thought there still doesn't seem to be any group existing, so that parents, loved ones, family, friends, siblings, they still had no one to talk to when they were going through what, although it's easier these days and far more acceptance, it's still something unusual and a bit out of left field.
It's very altruistic of you to be giving back 20 years on, though.
Well, I just keep seeing things that were happening, reading in the newspaper, and it was becoming more and more visible. But there still wasn't a peer support group, and I know the value of peer support, and that's what I was hoping to provide.
Sally, it must have been amazing to have met a mum who wanted to make this change for your community.
Oh, yes, it was. It really was remarkable. And, yeah, as I say, I had that, anxiety on the first morning. That helped, but I also want to say that I found the group was amazing in terms of our shared vision of social inclusion. And I myself did an exercise many years ago on what are my biggest values, and surprise, surprise, my biggest value is diversity.
That is a surprise result, Sal.
Sorry, Alex?
That's a real surprise result.
Yes, shock, horror, probe. But
most unusual.
Yeah, the thing was that I just found everyone shared it, and they were genuinely deeply interested in LGBTI issues. One of the guest speakers who came along was the well-known, fabulous Maria Paotti Caroli, and everyone really loved her, what she had to say about LGBTI and culturally and linguistically diverse. I think that we really all shared common goals just about building people in whatever way. And, as was stated, so many great programs. One member of the Sikh community who became an ambassador for the White Ribbon program, others who helped recycle bicycles with and get young people to rebuild them. So many great things that just added value. So it was a really awesome experience, an amazing group of people, and so many things have, as I say, have happened since that have come out of it. And the group has been running now since January, and has, I think, put another piece of the framework into Melbourne's, we'll say, transgender, diverse and allied type community. So, yeah, look, I can only speak too highly of it. It was one of my highlights of 2013, and so I hope someone in the eastern suburbs from the LGBTI and allied community would make it their 2014 highlight.
Alex, I imagine that part of Opening Doors, a community leadership program for social inclusion, is that people like Sally and Lyn share their experience to further the work of the organisation and to create an ever-growing space of social inclusion. Absolutely,
and this will be the 6th year the program's run now. And off the top of my head, we've got an alumni of around 91 graduates.
Just imagine the collective change that they're making to our society.
Absolutely. And the vast majority of them are still really, really engaged, not just with the projects that they're doing, but promoting a broader vision of social inclusion as well. So we've got a little army that we're working on here.
So submissions to be a part of Opening Doors, this extraordinary program, end in May. So you want to hear from people who perhaps, from anyone listening, from any sector, that want to make change. Is that right?
Absolutely. I mean, the time frame is unfortunately quite tight, but if there's anybody, not just from the LGBTIQ community, but the broader community as well, who are passionate about social inclusion, or maybe just want to get more involved with their community as well, just see what's out there and maybe take a step into that world, we'd be absolutely thrilled to hear from them. And again, regardless of their background or experience, it'd just be wonderful to hear those expressions of interest. And Lyn, tell me, how is TransFamilys going?
It's going along very well, thanks, Dean.
How many people, do you have meetings or members?
Yes, we have a monthly meeting. Our first meeting was held in January. Yeah. So we've had 4 meetings so far. The next meeting will be on this coming Saturday, the 24th of May, at 2 p.m, and it's in Box Hill. If anyone would like the exact address, they might like to email TransFamilyAustralia@gmail.com
transfamilyaustralia@gmail.com
That's
and
it.
speak
Yep.
and just send an email to Lyn.
Yeah.
And you could be a part of the TransFamily peer support group in the meeting
Exactly.
coming up very shortly. Alex, we will put on our podcast page how people can get in contact with you, but if anyone is desperate to do so, alex.mills@iepcp.org.au. That's iepcp.org.au. Alex Mills, thank you very much. Lyn McDonald, good luck with TransFamily. And Sally Goldner, thank you, as always, for joining us on Joy.
Absolute pleasure.
Thank you for having
Thanks,
us, Dean.
Dean.
You are on the line with Dean Beck. We'll be back right after this.